welcome to episode 2 of the Playtime podcast, New Adventures in Music. That's what it says up there. And we're really excited to be back with our second episode after the massive success of our first podcast. And if you remember last time, I was asking for people to write in with feedback and had they seen any of the interviews we did during lockdown and any questions. So we've got a few things in. This first one, episode 1 was very good. You are a very good interviewer. You should grow your beard a bit more because you've got a weak chin like your father. That's from my mother. Thanks, Mom. I saw an interview during lockdown. One of them in particular, you didn't ask the tough questions. You hadn't done your research. You let yourself down. The country wants answers. That's from someone in New Zealand. Not quite sure what that's about. Here's another question that came in. How long are you going to do this? How long are you going to do this for if nobody listens or watches? That came in from the negative part of my brain while I lay in bed this morning. And this is what I've got to say to that part of my brain. You can shut the We don't need to hear from you. It's just from you. That's completely the wrong way to look at this. So yourself. And in addition to that, there may be other people out there with the same question. I just want to tell you a few things. So when Playtime started in 2014, quite often we'd have like 5 people at the gigs, and we didn't care because we wanted to play the music we wanted to play, and we're not doing jazz for fame or money or to meet girls or boys or to get loads of drugs. If it was for any of those reasons, we would be doing something else. We play jazz because we love playing jazz. We love playing improvised music. And if there's an audience there, we're delighted. And if they're getting what we're doing, we're delighted. It doesn't really matter how big the audience is. Some of those 5 people are still coming to Playtime 10 years later. And when it was just 5 people, they always used to say, it's such a shame there's not more people because the music's so good. And then now there are more people. They sometimes say, it was so great when it was just 5 of us. It was so special. But the fact is that, okay, we prefer it when there's more people because we've now got a really great audience and it's quite often full, and that's exciting. But there's a level on which we didn't care when it was 5 people because just having 5 people was more than enough to make the whole thing really fun and cool. We actually did a gig once to no people at all during the Fringe, and we kind of forgot to advertise it anywhere, and so nobody came. And out of the 5 of us that were there, 4 of us stayed and did the whole gig because that's how, because we thought we're here, we're set up, we may as well play because we love playing. Martin went home, but he'd had a baby the day before. Well, yeah, his daughter had been born the day before. He didn't personally have the baby. And we felt that was understandable that he didn't stay and play a gig to no people. I think if it had been a few months later, he would have stayed to get a break from the baby. But anyway, you need to understand, we're going to keep going with this. It's like during lockdown when we did the live streams. Sometimes there was like 5 people watching, but we were like, it was an act of resistance against the universe that was trying to shut us down and stop us from doing anything. So we just carried on making music. And the fact that some people came on and listened was brilliant, and we loved it. So we're trying to bring that philosophy into the podcast. So please, if you're watching, listening, please send in something, a question or some feedback. It'd be good to know that you're there. So what's happening today on the podcast? Well, in the second half, we're going to have an extended interview with George Burt. George is a wonderful musician, wonderful guy. He's coming from a sort of jazz, free improv, experimental end of the spectrum. We all absolutely adore his playing. And we did use a bit of the interview in between the live stream last week in the interval, but this has got that stuff in it plus a bit more. There's a great My Enormous Dick segment in this. One of the greats, one of the best ever My Enormous Dick segments. And yeah, so that's happening in the second half of the podcast. So in the first half of the podcast, we're going to have our first ever listening party where me and Mario and Matt from Playtime Collective, we're watching and listening to a track from last week's live stream with Fergus McCreadie, and we're talking about how we think it turned out, some stuff that came up on the night. If you watched the first episode, we were some of us were a bit nervous about how the live stream was going to work out. So we're talking about how it turned out, and you'll get to hear a whole track and us talking over it. Obviously, if you want to hear the track on its own, it's up on YouTube, so you can listen to it without the inane blatherings of jazz musicians over the top. But anyway, so here we go. Here's the first listening party. It takes about a few minutes before we actually get into the listening party, but there's a fantastic My Enormous Dick jingle coming up at the start of this next section. So here we go. Listening party number 1.
Yes.
Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast. Matt, you know about this being a podcast now.
Yes, I'm totally on board. Absolutely, 100%. It's not a shock.
Your hair doesn't look that different. I thought you were going to change your hair now that you know it's being shared with the world.
No, I kind of, it's quite, I put some product in, like, so it's a bit silkier. And,
some product.
And
Nice.
I also added these in the background as a nice little, some cereal boxes as a nice little background. So,
you actually put those up there for the podcast?
Yeah. No, it's just where they live. But I just thought they're quite colourful, so I thought,
So, Mario, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I just had a busy day at the conservatoire, and then I'm back home. Had some muscles, and now I'm doing this podcast.
Nice.
I don't know if you saw the last episode of the podcast, but there was the My Enormous Dick section, and which is Kidsimonium backwards. So I've made a jingle for it. I've made a jingle for because I'm doing it again. I don't think I can use the jingle in this podcast because I've already interviewed George Burt before the jingle was made, but I thought I would share the jingle with you. I'm going to share the new Kidsimonium, new Kidsimonium jingle. Here we go. See what you think of this. Kidsimonium, my enormous dick.
Sorry, can you play it again?
Again.
Kidsimonium, my enormous dick.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
And that is just reversing the audio. There's no trickery in there. That is.
And what was it? The first time you did it, you was doing it in front of an audience or something? Was that the
Well,
story?
no, I wasn't actually doing it in front of an audience. I was planning to do it in front of an audience of children. That was the plan, and so I bought this 250 quid loop pedal so I could do it in front of children. And then when I found out what it was backwards, I obviously couldn't do that.
Yes.
So
that was 250 quid down the drain. Have you still got the
Yeah.
pedal, Tom?
So-
I'll give you 50 for it.
No, I sold it on eBay a couple of years later.
Oh,
Oh, brilliant.
So the next thing I want to. So are you happy with the jingle? I'm going to make another one. I'm going to try and get Gina to do a sort of Beverly Sisters one.
what's the jingle for?
Is also
what's
in the
what's
pipeline.
What's the
But-
application? What's the application of the
Well,
jingle?
when I do an interview, I have a My Enormous Dick section where we find out what the interviewee's name is backwards.
Brilliant.
So
I see.
I thought you'd watched the first episode of the podcast, and if you had done, you would have known that. But obviously, you only watched the first part.
I obviously only watched the first part, yes. I apologize for not following every single chapter of the Tom opera.
Mario.
What?
You've been busted, Mario Crispell.
I don't really care. I'm under no obligation to pander to your podcast.
Well, no, you don't. Obviously, you don't. I mean, why should anybody feel they've got to listen to it? It's just.
I think it's fun.
Anyway.
It's fun. I just needed to know what it was all about.
So, the next section is the last time we all spoke together.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about looking forward to the first live stream with Fergus McCreadie, and at that point we had no idea how it was going to go, and I was admitting to some stress about it and some worries that it was going to go tits up, and of course, obviously, with Matt Elliott in charge, it went like a dream. It sounded fantastic and looked fantastic, and it was very, very wonderful. Would you agree
Went all
with that,
right, didn't
Mario?
it? Went all right.
I think it was fantastic. It was really beautiful, and the visual and musical result is fantastic. It's great quality, and it is. Has it been watched by many a people?
Yeah, I think the gig's getting up to about well over 100 views, 200 views, and it's already brought in some income from donations. And one guy loved it so much that he's paid 25 quid donation. So what I thought we would do is, if we all listen to the track, the last track of the live stream, which was the Big Push Together,
Mm-hmm.
and we can talk about it while it's on, and then for the podcast listeners, they'll be able to hear the track, and if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll be able to see the footage, and we can discuss it while it's playing, and then if anybody wants to hear it without us talking crap over the top, they can obviously go to YouTube and just watch it there. So I was going to suggest we all listen to it on a phone or something.
On a phone.
Did you get that message, Mario?
What
looking
message?
blank.
No.
I'm going to say no, he didn't.
Well,
Message.
I mean,
Did you send a message
I've
on
got
my
a
phone?
feeling he didn't look at the message.
I'm going to try.
Do you have a way of?
on my AirPods while you guys are talking. Which
So
song?
if
Which
you're
tune
go-
is it?
if we
Whereabouts?
if we get the same, if we all get the same video on our phones, and we go 1, 2, 3, play, then we're all watching it at the same time.
Are we supposed to be? Is the music?
1, 2, 3, go. Did you get started? Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the camera shot now, and Fergus is doing a bit of a. Let's have a look.
Are we all good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first thing to say is, I love the way it looks, and I love the mirror behind Fergus. So you can see two Ferguses, and then you can see the guys in the audience like Blair and people like that. I think it's a wonderful vibe.
Yeah, it's good.
And did you sort of plan that, or did you sort of notice it while you were filming the mirror thing?
No, I noticed it when we got started, because there was a few shots where I kind of zoom in on Fergus in the mirror, and then kind of pan down to the real Fergus, which works really well.
Yeah, that was quite artistic, I would say.
And I also love the pan as it comes to you, Mario. There's a little light flare. It just kind of lights up just as it comes to you, which is a happy accident.
And this is a great shot of Fergus's hands. Did you have any problems with people knocking into the cameras, like the audience when they were moving around?
At the back, I think maybe one or two people accidentally, but that was kind of before the gig started, so it wasn't too bad. We had an unfortunate incident where someone spilled some wine, which I didn't see ended up in my bag.
Oh fine. God! So you have like wine-soaked bags?
Yeah, it was kind of a nice smell in the car on the way home.
But there was no equipment.
Yeah, if you watch the whole concert, there's a definite moment where you can hear it's really loud, this sort of crash. And
all good.
Yeah, that's
it's amazing. Those two mics pick up everything really well, don't they?
They do. I actually thought that they were picking the bass more acoustic than the amp itself. Did you not?
Okay.
Did you notice that, man?
I think we should say to if anybody's watching or listening, is that we made a decision just to use two mics to record the band, because doing it with lots of mics would just take a lot of setup time. It would mean they'd have to sound check it, and it would also be more disruptive for the audience in the room because there'd be stand mics everywhere. It was a bit of a gamble, and we weren't quite sure how it was going to turn out. So that's one of the reasons we're so delighted with it. It's just sounding really cool.
Yeah, no, it worked out really well. So I think depending on, it'd be interesting when we get more people on stage to see how just having to position people, because obviously when you've only got two mics, where everyone's positioned is quite important, because you kind of need to, because that's effectively your balance, how close everyone is to the microphones. But no, really pleased with it. It works really well. It's a good vibe.
I never noticed that I bob left and right when I play.
This is when Fergus is totally tearing the place up.
Yeah.
He gets on this sort of surge of. It's fantastic.
It's like I'm on a boat.
Fergus looks like he's dancing while he's playing, you know. It's great.
You see when you're playing Mario there, you're looking at what Fergus is doing. What's going on there?
Eye contact.
So just to see what you're going into the next section, or to see if he's coming to the end of his solo, or what?
Yeah, because everything. I think it started with a New Orleans vibe, and then we usually stay on the New Orleans vibe for a little while, and then I decided to switch into swing, which wasn't a decision that was actually predetermined. So when you do something like that, you keep an eye on the player to see if he's cool with that, and if he wants to keep going with that, or if he just wants to change.
Okay.
And then in practice, like, I'm constantly looking at Tom, looking at Graeme, looking at Fergus. That's one of the most important aspects, I think, of playing, is when you actually maintain visual contact with the players. That's my personal take. I do that all the time, and I think it's quite important. It's good to do that. Players kind of engage with that. You can actually get quite a lot out of what is the next hit that's going to happen when you do that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of constantly gazing. And it's like to see if we're on the same, you dig this? Yeah, okay. We'll change, go, no, left, right, center, back.
That's cool. I must admit, like, it's always amazed me how, like, you can see like a chart, like 184, and you guys play for like 15 minutes off of 1 sheet of A4 paper. You know what I mean?
Extrapolation to the max, yeah. It's because it's what they call in the trades, like the tune is a vehicle, and then the real music, the real thing happens when you actually have the communication, and it's a circular thing because you're going from the top to the bottom. It's like you're going circling around the form of the tune, and then on those kind of loops, it's like imagine we're all kind of 4 cyclists on a.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that guy shouting out there?
Yeah.
I think that might be Douglas. It was great. Yeah.
So every time you come back to the beginning of just like the top of the form, but it's never the same loop. It's always different. It's cool. I think it's what makes jazz so cool for people who.
There's lots of great. Lots of great close-ups on my left hand, Matt, and it's cool because like last 30 years, John Ray, the judge who lives in New Zealand, has been taking the piss out of my left hand technique. And,
really? Okay.
Sometimes when I used to play, my left hand was sort of, without me realising it, would kind of come up at a weird angle. And fortunately, during this gig, it didn't do that. And I've been talking to my students in AP about it. Like I'm trying to keep my left hand down, and you need quite a lot of close-ups on left hand, and it looks pretty good apart from one bit in the solo where there's a bit. You can see there's a little. If you're a drum technique, you can see there's a bit of tension in there. And yeah. But now here's Graeme's solo.
What is this tune?
What were you thinking? What?
What is this tune?
It's Big Push.
Big Push.
It's the last one of the gig.
Oh, cool.
And I remember thinking, I've got to go a bit nuts here just to sort of, just to support Graeme, and this Fergus done a really big solo, so I'm not sure if I pulled it off.
No, you did. It's great. And then Graeme was really going for it. That's amazing. I thought there was a Matt. When earlier in the video when I actually asked Graeme to go up in volume. Remember that moment? Graeme, then my finger up, like it actually made all the difference. It's like we need to get that boy out of his shell, and be the rock and roll guitarist that he was born to be.
Absolutely, the guy could definitely play. Got to give him that. Amazing.
But I mean, what I love about this wide shot is that you get this real. I think that it just looks lovely, and you get this real sense of being in this small room with this music, and at the end of the piano solo, everyone goes, there's a big cheer. You get a real sense of the excitement of the live thing, which is really. I mean, we've been playing it for 10 years, and we've known it's a brilliant vibe, but to be able to capture it like this is just really exciting,
In that room,
so I think you get the vibe from this video,
Because we did the other streamings from the hall were different. They were brilliant with the lights and everything, but to be able to capture that in that room is really cool. Yeah. Is it any more stressful for you as a capturer of image and sound in such a small room?
No, not really. I think it's always. I mean, when you've got a live audience, when it's a hybrid gig, there's always extra issues just because people walk in front of the camera. Not on purpose. It's a small room. People have to kind of walk in front of the camera. So, and just kind of trying to keep the sight lines there, because again, sometimes people want to try and sit in the way, so just kind of move people out the way nicely. But yeah, I think that was we did a little test a couple of weeks ago, so to kind of have like a rough idea of the different angles we can get. But I think if you got the one wide, the one next to it on a zoom, so you can kind of get all the close-ups and you can move that around, and then a third one just to kind of capture maybe the guests, like we've done with Fergus and the keyboards. I think
That left hand moment's coming up, by the way.
Oh, is it?
The left hand tension moment's coming up. There it is. Yeah, you see that?
That one?
Yeah.
No, that's because you're.
I'm doing that. I'm doing that to press down on the skin to
Yeah,
get
I
the
know.
sound. That's not.
That's not it.
That's not tension. That's all right. Okay.
There's another one coming up. We need to get John Ray on to slag off my left-hand technique.
I think we need to get John Ray because he's slagging off the big news already, saying, you know, did you see his him your mistake? He's like, you heard in big news? No, I didn't. No, neither did I.
I thought I was supportive. I thought it was cool that he got involved.
Oh, I'm not saying it wasn't, but we need to get him involved because he would be only.
Yeah, so we're coming to the end. That's the tune coming out, and I think the other really funny thing about the live stream was when Fergus thanked me for inviting him, and you got annoyed because we'd all invited him.
I didn't get annoyed. That was me trying to be humorous.
Oh,
sorry, I didn't quite come up that way, isn't it? Oh, so sorry. Maybe that's the Brazilianness and the lack of Britishness that makes my jokes not being understood in the studio. Whatever.
it was very funny. I enjoyed it. So anyway, guys, I think it's been a really good start to our live streaming.
So,
And,
can I ask you a technical question? Can I ask you a quick technical question for the future?
Yes.
If we're going to do this again, it'd be good to have that on the screen and not on our 3 phones.
What?
Sorry, you have what? Say that again?
It would be good to get the stuff we're watching on YouTube on the screen and not on our phone.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. We talked about that, and I'm going to explore it because I think that this was a dumb way of doing it. But it doesn't mean that the audio is going to be clean and of us talking. So I think for people watching,
Right.
that's the only reason I do it this way.
Okay. Well, in the future we might have.
But as we know, every day is a school day.
Every day, every minute is a school minute.
Mario, I thought you were talking about the gig. I thought you were saying, "Can we get a YouTube screen in the gig?" And I'm like,
No.
"Really? Like, you...
No.
Actually, that's a brilliant idea. It's like a Prince concert. You've got the big screen of what's on stage for the people at the back, but it's a tiny little room. But you could see the live stream.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
Jeez, talk about.
And then we could see we could have a live comment feed from all the thousands of people watching.
You suck.
I mean, that was the other thing, is because
good.
we weren't quite sure how it was going to look or sound, especially for the first one. And because we knew Fergus was going to be brilliant, and he was absolutely brilliant. I had this kind of, I had this sort of nightmare scenario of us playing with Fergus and then the feed dropping or or people commenting the sound's breaking up, and I don't know if you're aware, Mario, but me and Matt had to run a cable inside the venue. We had to drill some holes through walls, and we got permission for it, but it was kind of like we ran a cable.
Was that the cable that you
before.
forgot you had not tied? Yes.
Do you want to tell that story, Matt, about the?
Oh no. Okay. Yeah.
Out
So basically, we ran this cable, so a Cat 5 cable to get from the upstairs to the downstairs, which is where the router is. Long story short, I think it was the Wednesday, the day before, me and Tom went in there, and a technique for pulling a cable through a hole is to, like, you kind of feed either the cable itself back on itself, tie it off, and then pull it through, so it just goes through the hole a bit easier. So we did that, but what I did was I cut it, and then I taped it back onto itself, and then pulled that through the hole, and then we kind of tidied it up, and then we had to leave, and then we left it. So then the next day, the Thursday, the gig, I went in at lunchtime to finish the job and connect it all up. And I went in and just put the little end, wired up the end onto the cable as it was hanging down. And I think I spent about, what did I say, Tom? About 40 minutes testing it and panicking because no matter what I did, this cable just would not work. And I cut the end off, put the end back on again, and I went back upstairs, cut the end off that end, and put another end on. And about 40 minutes until I realised I was downstairs talking to the bar manager, and I just looked down and saw that the tape was on this piece of cable, and realised that I'd put the end on the bit that had been cut away. And so
basically the cable was not connected to itself. Right.
So there was a bit of an air gap. Yeah, a bit of an air gap. But,
well,
we got it. It's all fine.
It's like fine. Easily done. Yesterday, I spent about 10 minutes wondering where my car keys were. Just a minute after getting out of the car, thinking that I had lost my car keys, and finding them 10 minutes later on the top of my car. So I will say yes. I feel your pain, and I understand. That can happen.
Absolutely.
We're all getting to that age,
yeah. But all good though. Got it all done.
So, guys, I think. Yeah. Well, Matt, you did a brilliant job. So well done. It's really exciting. I couldn't believe how great it looked and sounded. So, and the other thing that was satisfying was that there's been like 2 years of planning around this whole thing. And deciding to do 2 mics and blah blah blah. There's a lot of thought gone into it, and when you collectively make a bunch of decisions like that, and then it ends up coming out with a really good result, it's always very satisfying, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, yeah, all good.
Okay, next one.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot for coming on and being part of episode 2 podcast. And we're looking forward to next week with George Burt. And there's an interview with him in this podcast. I think it's coming after this section. So we're going to talk to George. And we're going to have another My Enormous Dick episode with him. And I might see if I can insert the new jingle into that. But if not, I'll start using it from the next one. And thanks for coming on, and have a lovely night.
See you later.
Remember, don't be an enormous dick.
See ya. Bye-bye.
So that was our listen party. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you could hear us talking over the music. If you couldn't, let us know, because we're trying to learn how to do this better. So any feedback is appreciated. I'm wearing my new hat. It's got this today. So thought I'd try that and see how it looks in the camera. Just give us some thoughts on the hat, if you have any. And then here we go. Next up, we've got interview with the wonderful George Burt, who's coming to Playtime next week. What I'm going to do is play a little duo that George and I did at the Pie gig, which is Pathhead Improvised Experimental in Pathhead Village Hall in 2019. And if you're listening to the podcast version, you won't probably know what's going on, but basically what's going on is I'm sitting about 4 foot away from the drum kit with a big bag of sticks, and I'm just throwing sticks in the air, and they're landing on the drum kit. Meanwhile, George is sort of responding to that energy on his guitar, and then towards the end of the section, I'm crawling around on the floor just picking up the drumsticks that are everywhere. But I love improvising with George, and it always usually gets pretty nuts. So I thought I'd give you a little taste of what it's like before we start talking. So here's me and George improvising in Pathhead Village Hall in the Pie gig in 2019. Yes, here we are, George Burt. You wonderful man.
Wow.
How are you?
Okay, fine. Yeah, not too bad.
You
Glad
sort
to
of
see you.
froze there for a second. I thought you were deep in thought, or maybe it was just the internet.
I think it was just the internet, Tom.
Can you recall having a pause? And yeah, I think it was the internet. I don't think you had a thought.
No thoughts at all. No, I'll leave that to the machines. Machines will
and where are you, George?
The machines will be having all our thoughts pretty soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it will be like everything else in this world. It'll be both good and bad.
Okay, that's very wise, George.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's hard-won maturity.
Where are you in the world?
In physical world, I'm in Glasgow. I lived in Falkirk all my life up until 2 years ago, and then we bought this flat in Glasgow. Just at the time that the Hypnotist Centre of Scotland all moved to Falkirk.
Do you think that you leave Falkirk?
John Burgess is in Falkirk now. He's got a flat right in the middle of the town. And Simei Wu, the lovely cello player, she's in Falkirk.
Right.
Yeah, it's all happening. Yeah.
So the Hypnotist quotient went up because John and what's the name of the cellist?
Simei Wu.
Simei and John moved to Falkirk. The Hypnotist quotient went up.
Yes.
You leaving, did that elevate the Hypnotist quotient because you weren't there anymore?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That
And presumably Glasgow suffered as a result.
Yeah. Glasgow's fine though. Glasgow's made me very welcome. It's great. I'm living not far from Raymond MacDonald, and the street I'm in, it seems to be full of guitar players. I see people going in and out with guitars all the time. And there's an amateur orchestra rehearses in the church hall on a Tuesday evening up there. So I'm thinking about getting my whole double bass out. And I'm a bit like you in the trombone, Tom. I own a double bass. So I think it's time.
Right.
Yeah. So
I know I haven't been playing my trombone at all. So I want to give it away to somebody that, a young person that needs one.
Yeah.
You said in the physical world, I'm in Glasgow. So where are you in other worlds?
Good question. I'm mentally. I'm working on the remains of a project. We went to New York, upstate New York last year. We got some funding from Edinburgh University and from Scottish Arts Council, Scottish Creative Scotland, and that was enough to pay us to go to Saugerties in New York, just down the road from Woodstock, and play with Marlyn Crispell and a wonderful percussionist called Doug James. Do you know him?
No.
He played in a few Reggie Workman records, and he's played with Marlyn a lot. But his main thing was he's a publicity man, and he was a publicity for Blood, Sweat and Tears, I think. And
okay.
he's a really great percussionist, really good. So we played with him and Marlyn and Raymond and me, and we also had Joe Ganter, the artist, and an artist called Melinda Stickney Gibson, and we kind of developed. We were kind of, this thing that everybody does with graphic scores. Everybody's doing graphic scores, so we
well, not everybody.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a fashion, isn't it?
Definitely
it's definitely in fashion.
So we were trying to take the process a bit further and create, stuff that could go in the walls of a gallery, and we could play the music at the same time. So it would be the same thing. the same piece of art. So I'm trying to put this. Can you see this? I've just made this CD of stuff that came from that project. So
can you send me that? Can you send me any of these pictures?
Yeah, I could do. Yeah.
That'd be great. I mean, I did get a nice view of that, but it was a little bit blurry. So, but it was kind of artistic the way it was blurry.
Yeah,
you know.
But you want
and
something.
Were you all making the art, or just the two artists?
No, we were all making the art. Yeah, though my art was very primitive and was confined to a few cartoons. But we all joined in making big. Well, there was two things happened. There was one, we started off in this gallery, quite a conventional gallery, you know, with the white walls and the hardwood floor and all that stuff. But the woman that ran the place is a fabulous woman called Jen, who owns this place. She said she just bought an old 5 and dime store, you know, like Woolworths is the equivalent.
Yes.
Woolworths is one, or Wilco, one of those. And she just bought this thing on Main Street, and it's like everywhere else. You know, the high street's kind of dying, so these old streets, these old stores were going out of business. So she bought this thing, and she's going to make it into a kind of artist's, you know, sort of, you know, you could go in there and buy rugs or little cards or ceramics, things like that. There would be different stalls round about. But in the States, she just bought it, so it was just an empty shell. So I'll send you pictures of this. But we got the run of this place. It was huge. It was like an old Woolworths or something. And we got the run of this place to put whatever we wanted on the walls. And we made a kind of, Raymond made this kind of construction in the middle with Melinda. Huge big thing. And we had concerts. We had 2 concerts in there and 3 concerts in the conventional gallery. We were there for a month. Part of the time Joe and I were down with COVID, you know, so it cut down the whole work close to about a week. But it was fascinating. Yeah, it was good fun.
And were you doing stuff like every day, all day, as a group?
Yeah.
Or was it?
Yeah, that was Once we got out of the COVID restrictions, you know, we were locked up in this house for 10 days. But once we got out of the COVID, we were there all day, every day. Yeah, it was amazing. And then the occasional walk down to the Hudson.
That sounds kind of intense.
It's great, you know. But that was last year, and I think so. It's just getting to the stage where I've got some of the recordings and the artwork together. I'm going to put that in, and that's going to be our evidence. And that's the project tied up as far as I'm concerned. What we're going to do next, or what I'm going to do next is...
Can people hear it? Can people hear the music anywhere online?
Yeah, I'm just going to release it. I was going to do it in Bandcamp, but you know, I don't know what's Bandcamp. But in a couple of weeks' time, I'll release that and try and get reviews and so on, and point the CD at gigs and things.
Well, if you this is probably going to be going out in about a week, so I'm going to use a bit of the interview on Thursday.
Okay.
So a bit of this interview, and but the podcast, we're doing a podcast, so it's kind of, we can just talk for a bit longer. We don't have to keep it just for the interval of the gig anymore. And so if you know anything, like if you have any links or anything by, you know, next Thursday, then or next week, then let me know. But
next Thursday, okay,
I can talk. I can mention it on another podcast, you know, later on when.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I'll send you a pile of stuff, and you can decide what you want to do with it.
I've got a question before you.
Yeah, go for it.
Before you go on to what you're doing next, I've got a question which I probably should have asked first, but I didn't, you know, because I've got a question, which is, are you a jazz musician?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I would. Joe and myself we're going to the Queen's Hall tonight on Sunday. We're going to see Fairport Convention. That was that was my first love. When I first heard Fairport Convention back when I was a teenager, I thought this is fab. You know, that's what I really love. And that and Pentangle. Do you remember Pentangle? Danny Thompson.
Is that a folky thing?
Yeah. Danny Thompson on bass. And Jackie McShee, Bert Jansch, and John Renborn. Those were the guys I really, you know, when I was coming out, really loved. And then got into things like John Martin and you know, that kind of got in the back door, because John Martin played with some of the Brit jazz people, you know, Neil Ardley and Dick Hextall Smith and all that. So that's how I got into playing jazz. And I played jazz. I was in a Dixieland band for about 10 years, and I played a lot. And we both know Bill Wells, you know, and Bill lived in Falkirk at that time. And I used to go around to Bill for a week, a play every week, and we played jazz, and we did the odd gig in Falkirk. It was like free. It was like going to music college, going around to Bill's, you know, just learning stuff. That's how I learned, really. I've got this band. Well, it's kind of on and off with Raymond MacDonald. That partnership's been going for years. And that was a jazz band, a kind of jazz pop band, really, with free bits in it. And the free bits gradually took over and over and over. And we got the Glasgow Improvisers Orchestra out of that. Or not, that was one of the roots of the Glasgow Improviser Orchestra. And
so here's a question.
Yeah. I'm a jazz musician.
Well, no, I think you're answering that question. But if there's like the free bits, are they jazz or are they something else? So the Glasgow Improvisers Orchestra, is that jazz, for example?
No, and it's becoming less jazz.
That feels us. It's
becoming less jazz. There's fewer and fewer saxophone players. It used to be all saxophone players and trumpeters. Those old people are fading out now, and there's a whole new raft of young people coming in who have nothing to do with jazz or think of jazz as, I don't know, some kind of disease or something. So it's
hold on, George, 1 second. I'm getting disrupted here.
Yep.
Yeah. She knows I'm doing an interview, and she just asked me if the clocks went back last night.
Yeah, they did.
And it's like, yeah, they did, but it's possible to find that out in other ways, interrupting this very, very important conversation.
It puts the interviewee at his ease, you know, those kind of interruptions. You know, I had up until quite recently, I had a day job, part-time day job. And we had a Zoom, you know, during lockdown, we had a Zoom meeting with our boss, and he's chatting away. And he's quite a serious man. He played bass in a prog rock band actually, but he's a very serious, straightforward man, you know, going by the book and by the rules. And he was chatting away to us, and we're going, yes, right. And then suddenly this dog just appeared from the side of the frame, and just knocked him off his chair, and he's going. And he said, sorry about that. We got a rescue dog. So that was just that.
That sounds great. It sounds like it would have been.
Yes, a serious local government meeting just descended into complete chaos. It was brilliant. Great moment.
So this thing about free improv and experimental music, and there's this sort of blurry line, and then there's jazz, and there's obviously parts of jazz that are right over the other side of the jazz kind of diagram, but I'm interested in that sort of blurry boundary. And there's definitely, I feel like some people in the improv world don't like people that are tainted with jazz. You know, there's a sort of sense of.
I agree. There's a kind of what's the word? There's a kind of moral thing about, you know, if a thing goes into swing, or if a thing starts having a groove, or there's a melodic pattern develops, you can see people being quite, you know, kind of disapproval.
Yes.
A kind of disapproval takes over. The trouble with that is, though, in a free situation, in a free improvising situation where you don't know what the other players are, what the background of the other players are, if you do start a kind of tonal thing or a rhythmic thing, it can take over, and you wind up with this mechanical. So it's not got the richness of a proper piece, a proper jazz piece, and it's just the kind of, you know, it's just a kind of groove that's not going anywhere, or a drone that doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, it gets stuck in a groove. Yeah. I was, you know, Carla Bley, you know, died last week, and I was reading the interviews by her, you know, that I've read many times before, I suppose. But that she was involved in players like Pharoah Saunders and Gato Barbieri, and, you know, that kind of very free thing. And her thing was, you know, just writing these little bits that we just ground it for a bit. You know, these little fragments, little. That was how she talked about composing for these people, was making little bits. You know, that we just focus it into a direction, and then it would go off again. It's very, very, very fruitful, that.
Yeah, she's wonderful, and it's very sad that she's died.
Yeah.
I listen to her music a lot, and we're actually going to play a night of Carla Bley's music.
Brilliant!
The playtime after your one with Helena Kay. So
that would be great. I'll look forward to that. That's
there's a couple of great Carla Bley stories. One is did you hear the one about, she started composing? She was married to Paul Bley, the pianist.
Yeah.
Who by all accounts was quite off the wall kind of character. And I think he booked her. It was either a gig or a studio session.
Yeah.
Didn't ask her permission or tell her, and then locked her in a room and said, "You've got to write 10 tunes by tomorrow."
Yeah.
Because you're going into the studio, or I can't remember which one it was. It was either a gig or a studio thing.
Yeah.
And he locked her in a room and told her she had to write 10 tunes.
That's
and
amazing.
She did.
Yeah, she did.
And that's how she started composing.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. I tried to do that to myself the other week. There, I had a recording session booked, and I thought, that's great. It's in 4 days. I'll write 8 pieces. It'd be great. Came out with 2.5, and one of them was rubbish. So we just played 1.5 things and played the rest of it free. But we'll get that. That was a great band, actually. It's Una McGlone, you know Una.
Yeah, she's
Una
wonderful.
McGlone, who comes from the classical world and was doing improv. And a drummer from Shetland called Renzo Spiteri. Have you come across Renzo?
Oh, I don't know him or her.
Yeah, Renzo. Yeah, it's him. He did a gig at the Edinburgh Storytelling Centre the other week there. And so while he was down here, we got hold of him, and he's really good, really good. He's becoming quite the man to hang out with in Shetland. You know, he's in Shetland. And Graeme Wilson and Cleena Cassidy. So that was the band. And I'm going to. The idea of that is I'm going to put that stuff together and get Tamdene Byrne to do some Edwin Morgan stuff over the top of it. Recompose it a bit.
Did you not do some stuff with Tamdene Byrne already?
We did, yeah. We had a gig at the Edinburgh. This is pre-pandemic. The Edinburgh Book Festival. We did. It was Edwin Morgan's translations, of Mayakovsky, the revolutionary poet. And so, there was all kinds of revolutionary stuff happening in the in a tent in George Square. It was great. Yeah.
Were you the entire? Was your band the 100% of the revolutionary stuff, or was there other revolutionary stuff?
I think. Well, we'd have to talk to the others. Originally, it was a collective, but I think of the stuff we played that night, I think maybe 30 to 40% of it was mine. And there was some free stuff, and some other people had done things. Yeah. So yeah, it's a kind of collective thing. Yeah. But by the time we divided it, who else was in that band? There was Una, Jerry Rossi, really brilliant piano player.
I know Jerry.
And Katrina Mackay.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of playtime, because we sort of do this quite broad range of playing. From playing, sometimes we play jazz standards and it's swing and everything, and sometimes we play completely free. And I think our audience has sort of got used to that. So I think obviously some of them don't come when they think it's going to be if they like one end of the extreme, and they know kind of what they get. We try and give them some pointers as to what, but most of them I think just give everything a shot. And the four of us are definitely we really like. I can't really speak on behalf of everybody, but I think we all really like playing all of it. You know, it's like it's all really interesting. And you're one of the sort of more, I don't know what the right expression is for you, George. I mean, left field is not the right expression, but we really look forward to playing with you because you bring in this fantastic sort of different approach and aesthetic, which I think it's there all the time in what we do, but you kind of really sort of anchor it, like that's where we're going to be and we're expecting to be, you know, and I think we end up discovering new parts of it, everything, when someone like you comes along, and it is great. And I've always felt you and Graeme have really hit it off.
Yeah, we did some recording a wee while ago. Yeah, he's a great guy. Though that was interesting. You know, the difference the differences between us are you know, it's a thing that I think I'd like to learn a bit more about. You know, Graeme does things happen in a long way with Graeme, and things with me tend to be a bit more. I've got a shorter attention span, I think, and things go up and downy and spiky. So when I'm doing that stuff, I think I'm in musical. I think I'm kind of going backwards. You know, I like to play more jazz and stuff, or folk, or songs. Songwriting, I think, is a really important thing. You're a really great songwriter. You should be doing more songs as well, I think.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. I mean, do you feel that the free improv end of things, you can sort of burn out for a while of sort of freshness, and then you have to go away from it and come back to it?
Yeah, I think not everybody would agree, but I think I think that's definitely the case. I think you can tell, even with the great players. I think, you know, you can. Yeah, I think you can bounce back and forward, and you need to go to other stuff to kind of refresh it, I think. Yeah.
I was speaking to an old friend from London that I first played free improv with, this guy called John Telfer, who's a baritone sax player. He was in my big. I mean, I think you might have. I don't know if you've ever played with him, but I used to get him up to do my big band back in the day, and I was speaking to him the other day, and he said he'd sort of mostly stopped doing free improv because he said something like, I got sick of my own playing, or something like that. And I'm actually, you know, I teach free improv. I teach students about improv, you know, and what I sort of try and say to them is that there's this question mark at the center of this kind of music making, which is, why are you playing? What's the reason for playing a note? Whereas most other genres, there's all these conventions and expectations, and roles that predefine it. You kind of know, what if you're in a metal band or if you're in a mariachi band, you kind of know what your role is on that particular instrument, and everybody tends to start playing. They know what they're meant to be doing. Whereas in free improv, it's like you don't know, you don't really know, and the sitting with the question mark is the thing, and trying to answer those questions. And I find that sometimes I go through patches where I'm just always able to get into a space where it feels fresh, Yes. But then sometimes I'm sitting there going, I'm really not in the mood for this at all. I just don't feel like in the way. And then hopefully something happens, and then
Yeah, it's you've got to be Fred said this. You've got to be a virtuoso listener, first of all, to be a good improviser. You've got to be listening, and it's I know that feeling precisely. And you've got to put yourself in that position where that's going to happen, and before something else will occur. And there are groups. Well, there was controversy about the Barry Guy, Evan Parker band, Paul Litton. That's got its own sound. As soon as you hear that band, you know what it is. But they're improvising. They're improvising all the time. But the sound of that band is so particular. And there are other bands that are like that as well, I think. So it kind of has a style, but it's kind of Well, like you hear Derek Bailey, you know exactly who it is from the first.
Yeah.
Bang,
We used to use a little bit of Derek Bailey as the theme music for the
That's right.
interviews.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Derek, but I've saw him play a couple of times, and I always felt he looked like he'd just been given a guitar for the first time.
Yeah,
I was going, "What's this?
Yeah,
how do you play this?" And to be able to have that, even though it was hugely skilled and he had this incredible developed language on it, there was this sense of freshness that he had. I always thought that was remarkable, that he was able to almost like start with some sort of. I'm presuming this, I don't know this, but it felt like he was able to start with a we've just met feeling, every time he played, and that's amazing.
Well, there is a page of music, with 3 exercises. I got it out of the Guitar Player magazine about 40 or 50 years ago, which is Derek Bailey, and it's it's kind of clusters and things. They're written out,
right,
so you can see where they are in the guitar. So you get 3. You get a little thing with 3 notes, a semitone apart. That are doing those kind of moves. So that's he kind of. He had that interest in contemporary classical stuff as well. The kind of Webern and all that kind of music. He was interested in all that stuff. Gavin Bryars.
So these 3 lines of notes from the Guitar Player magazine, were they written by Derek Bailey?
Yeah.
Or had somebody sort of transcribed it?
No. These were written by him.
And was there like explanatory text sort of explaining how to interpret them?
No. You were just left to it.
No explanation. Just here you are.
He did do John Russell, the guitar player. He's a lovely player as well. John Russell, the guitar player, told me that he took lessons from Derek Bailey, and it was very conventional. It was how to play the big band 4 in the bar thing. It was all very.
And when was that?
That would be in the 60s, early 70s, I would think. That would be in the 70s.
Wow. So possibly before Derek Bailey had.
Derek was doing his thing by then. Yeah, he was doing his thing.
He was.
But he didn't teach that. People, it was
okay.
It was the
That's
straight.
so interesting, isn't it?
It was the straight ahead stuff he was teaching. Knowledge of the instrument, I suppose. That's the.
So George, there's a regular feature that I'm trying to launch in the podcast, which has got a terrible title, and I'm a little bit nervous about telling you about the title, but there is a reason for the title, which is Kids Ammonium, my enormous dick. Not what it seems. The section is called My Enormous Dick.
Yes.
In a Swedish, it should be pronounced in a Swedish accent, as in My Enormous Dick. And the reason for that is because it's I don't know if you remember, I did this show called Kids Ammonium, and it's Kids Ammonium backwards. If you record Kids Ammonium and play it backwards, it's My Enormous Dick in a Swedish accent. And I was planning to use Kids Ammonium backwards in the show at one point with all the children, and then when I found out it was My Enormous Dick, I couldn't do it, obviously. So but as a result, I became interested in people's names backwards, and I wondered if you knew what your name was reversed sonically.
Sonically reversed.
Yeah.
Trub George. Trub George.
That's pretty good, George.
Would that work?
I think that's pretty spot on. I've got an app that we can record what we think it is, and then reverse it and find out. This is the future, Tom. This is what AI is going to do for us. This is what our whole lives are going to be like. It's going to be brilliant. What, that we will be able to just communicate through apps? Yeah, apps, and everything will be reversed and backwards, and it'll all be. The pure plan of this is that I don't prepare. Yes. I just try and do it live, then work out the name backwards. And I actually have to say that I thought your name was going to be really easy to do backwards. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're both one syllable names. Yes. And surely it's going to be quite easy. But actually, George is very hard to do backwards. And it's also a palindromic. It is kind of perfect. Yeah. George. But there's a little bit of I think there's a little bit of George. Yeah. So, but Burt is also quite difficult to do, actually. So, do you want to do your one, and I'll record it and see what it's like? God. And right, reverse it. Here we go. Right. Wait a minute. Go. Trub George. So this is the recording. Trub George. This is it backwards. Yeah. George. It's not bad, but it's not really. It's not really very. I'm gonna have a go. George, you can't laugh while I'm doing it. It's gonna fuck up the recording. You got to take this more seriously, George. This is the My Enormous Dick in Swedish accent section. Here, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm doing it. Okay. Trub George. Okay. I don't think that was right, but. Trub George. George. That's better. Well, the Burt was better, but the George is. No, the George is the difficult. That's a difficult one. Yeah, yeah. It's extremely hard to do, George. Or can I have another go? Anyway, yeah, have another go. Yeah, I'll say go when I've started recording. Okay, go. Trub George. Okay. I think the internet froze, so it was. Anyway, let's hear what it was. This is the recording of it. Trub The George was really good.
Yeah.
The George was really good. So you need to work on your Burt, I think. You don't have to. It's just, if you want to go further down this road.
Yeah. It's not as entertaining as my enormous deck. That was funny.
I think that's possibly that should be the final word on this particular section. Kids ammonium, my enormous dick. Thank you for indulging me with that load of nonsense. And so, we're really looking really looking forward to you coming to play with us in a couple of weeks' time, George. And I think it's the 14th of November. You're coming.
16th?
16th of November. 16th. Sorry.
I'll be there the 14th.
Before you go, is there anything? We've talked about this new album's coming out, so hopefully you're going to get me. You might get me something. A link I can put up, but if not, I'll put up the link in another podcast when it's there.
Okay.
And is there anything else you want to talk about? Any gigs coming up? Anything you want to direct people towards?
The only thing really is the Glasgow Improvisers Orchestra lost its funding for this year. I didn't know that. Yeah, we were applying for some, to put on our festival and get some guests over and so on. But it was turned down by Creative Scotland. Fair enough. There's all kinds of pressures on. We all know what they are. So it's kind of the festival, the GeoFest that normally happens at the end of November isn't going to happen now. But there will be a 2-day event around about the same time, end of November, 24th, 25th, I think it is, whatever the Friday and Saturday that is. It'll be Geo itself and a couple of guests, and we'll be doing new music, but it won't be GeoFest as such, because we were originally going to have George Lewis from America and some other musicians from the ICE ensemble, but that's not going to happen now. Hopefully in the new year, we'll get that going again. But so it's not GeoFest this year. It's Gallus Disruptors is the name of the event.
Gallus Disruptors, I love that name.
Gallus, yeah, me too.
Didn't you have like RFO status before?
No.
It was always year-on-year funding.
It's always been year-on-year funding, and it's
okay.
I always, that's you're always on a chance with that, and plus all the political stuff that's been happening, it's why we rise up.
I'm sorry to hear that, George.
Yeah. The dogs bark, but the caravan moves on, and all those other stuff, all those other things.
I hope, because we got some funding this year. I hope there wasn't a moment where they went, let's take that money and put it over there. That would be terrible.
No, I think you do the application and they come back and say this is fine, this is brilliant, but there's no money. That's fair enough. I worked in local government for years and years, and that kind of stuff happened all the time. This is a great project. This is really going to benefit the people, but we can't do it. Fair enough.
I think that they do. I mean, there used to be a sort of sense of this scene needs this to happen. So there was sort of some kind of strategic thinking. I think that's been not just in Scotland, but all over the West, Western Europe, that funders have stopped doing that, and they just gone to this. We just look at what applications come in at any particular month, and we just and it's all art forms all in the same meeting, and they just hand out the money they've got on that day.
Yeah.
And there's I guess it protects them from accusations of bias or politics, stuff like that. But it means that any sort of strategic thinking around what a sector needs and what a scene needs has been sort of lost. I don't know why it seemed to be a good idea. I'm sure it's not the people working there that, you know, that it's not their decision. It's a higher up decision. But it's kind of like, if you've got these things like Geo that have been there for, how long have you been going for now?
22, 23 years.
Yeah, you've been doing all this incredible work for 22 years, and suddenly just take funding away. It's like, what and how? I think that's just so destructive, you know. And it's a shame. I'm sorry about that, to hear that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll take that back to the others. That means a lot.
Yeah,
but it's you know, it's not the end. It's not the end of the, you know, it'll go on, you know, in what shape, we'll see.
I mean, there is talk about the SNP increasing the budget for the arts, so maybe things like that will get a little bit easier moving forward, hopefully. But,
yes. Well, we'll see. Yeah.
All right, George. Well, lots of love, man. Thank you for coming on, and we're looking forward very much to playing with you a couple of weeks and hearing your new album and all that stuff.
Yeah, that'll be great. Right. Okay. Thanks, Tom. Right.
Cheers,
see you later,
man.
man. See you soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
Playtime Podcast is supported by Creative Scotland.